Hey, everybody, how you doing? I just, and that is all the time we have for you. I'm not even, welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm here to talk you through whatever the fuck we just watched last night.
Your director of sadness and misery for today?
I'm not even, I've only had 7 hours to process this one, and I was asleep for most of it.
Oh, man.
And I went to bed, and I was just like, "This is funny." This is funny.
It is funny.
And now I'm no longer laughing, Charlie. It's actually the most ridiculous shit I've ever.
I'm still laughing.
I am joined by the #1 beat reporter in Philadelphia, Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, how was your experience watching that game last night?
It wasn't great. It wasn't, aside from the inherent drama of watching one team try to avoid historic futility and the other team trying to avoid being the team that allows them to avoid historic futility. Aside from that, for at least 40 minutes, it was not a good hockey game.
That was some of the worst hockey ever played.
It was really bad.
I will say, it was one of the most dramatic games I've watched this Flyers team play in a long time. I tweeted at you, this must have been, every time the Sharks took a shot, which was once every 7 or 8 minutes,
right?
It was drama. It was I likened it to, this must how people felt watching the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics, USA, USSR. Every time a shot was taken, it was is this it?
Is this when they're going to score?
Could this be?
Yeah.
And then I later likened it to watching the 9th inning of a perfect game if both teams came out for the 9th blindfolded. I just got us everything we said about this team being better than we thought. It's over. Dead. They just literally, and I know I'm using literally incorrectly here, but there's no proof that I'm using it incorrectly. They just literally pissed all over themselves. And you know what? John Tortorella, the head coach who's hiring, I was kind of meh on, but he grew on me, and I have since decided I like him for the rebuild. He's on my personal hot seat. You can't be the we maintain a standard guy and then watch your team come out lackluster against an AHL Sharks team that they should honestly be terrified to lose to and pumped to pad their stats against. There wasn't anyone I saw in the first 40 minutes of that game who was seething to get their hat trick. Oh, baby. I'm going to be a point-of-game player after this one. This is it for me. There was not one guy.
One goal, and it barely went in.
Barely. I'm still not positive it went in. You can't be the we outwork everyone guy and then lose 5 of 6, 7 of 9, and respond to a 5-0 home beatdown by losing to a team that lost its first 11 games by a combined score of 54-12.
Wow, is that bad?
54-12. You scored once. You can't be the culture and identity guy and then watch your team come out the way they did in the first 40 minutes. Clearly, whatever message you're imparting on them has already been lost in the first year and 1 month of your tenure. Where was all the identity? Where was all that pace? I'm going to talk about Morgan Frost and maybe how his pace doesn't fit with what John Tortorella's idea is. If slow and deliberate is the pace, why wasn't Morgan Frost in? He fits perfectly with what they did last night. I just, where was all the improvement we'd seen in their gameplay? Where was the physicality? Why were they so content to play on the perimeter? How did they manage to take 6 minor penalties against the by far worst team in hockey? How do you have too many men on a power play? Where's all your discipline? How many power plays of their own? Now, maybe negating their own power plays is the best thing for their offense.
You're not wrong, though.
But how many of their own power plays did they negate last night? 2, 3? Like, I need to see a lot more out of this team and a lot more out of this organization if I'm going to feel comfortable giving them the benefit of the doubt I've allowed them since the regime change. Maybe it was folly on my part. Like, oh, yeah, fucking first 2 weeks of the season, they look better, so clearly they're better. Like, I don't know. Maybe the NHL is the NFL now where the first month is still preseason because ain't nobody playing the preseason.
Don't tell that to Canucks fans.
Yeah, well, Charlie, I actually went back and read your mentions, and I got to tell you, man, don't you have enough on your hands with this fucking team? They really are. I will say, though, the Canucks are the Flyers of the West.
They are.
It lines up.
Canucks fans are Flyers fans.
And you know what?
It is the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man.
And you know what? The people in your mentions were absolutely insane. And, like, just take a breath, man, and look at what he's saying. Like, no, I don't care if Thatcher Demko, like, he's not Dominik Hasek. Like, that's all we're saying. But, like, I'll give them, you know what? I understand your insanity. Yeah. Because last night, I spent, I don't know, minute and a half scrolling GIFs for the perfect Joker GIF. Mm-hmm. And I realized this is what being a Flyers fan is.
Sure is.
Like, not just, oh, yeah, like Ryan Gilbert last night, I'm going to turn into the Joker. Like, buddy, I don't know how you're not there yet.
Yeah, right. But everybody's the Joker at this point.
We're not just the Joker. We are in no way are we the Adam West style. Like, no. Like, literally driving with head out car window. Like that beautiful Christopher Nolan shot.
The Heath Ledger
one. Yeah, like that's who we are. We're that. And I know why. I know why Vancouver fans are too. I get you.
The Flyers did this to everyone.
Yes.
They did this to everyone.
They've done this.
Yeah. It's on them.
They've done this to me.
Yeah.
I can point at you and like, if it's making you miserable, turn it off. I get it. I chose this to be my career. I have no one to blame but myself. But fuck you, I blame you. I'm just, Charlie, I guess I'm the imbecile for thinking that this team was any different than the last 10 Flyers teams we've seen. But, like, watching them play the sport, like, not just being like, oh, they've won some games. Because we said, listen, if they just win some games because Couturier's back and Carter Hart's back, that don't matter.
Right.
Watching them play the sport of hockey, they looked like a vastly improved hockey team. Last night, they looked like they had zero interest. And when John Tortorella comes out before the game and says they shouldn't be able to spell trap game, he knew it was going to happen. And it just happened.
Like, apparently they can spell trap game. Yeah. And the funny part about it is that while I agree with you that they played like crap, I agree with you that, especially for the first 40 minutes, they looked lethargic. They didn't look engaged. They were making dumb mistake, dumb turnover after dumb turnover. In spite of all that, they still outshot them 39-19, which shows you how bad the Sharks are.
The Sharks are an embarrassment. That's the thing. The Flyers played as poorly as you can play. And like after the game, Sean Couturier can statistically sit there and be like, thought we were pretty good at 5-on-5.
Yeah, like we had the puck most of the game, which they did.
Congratulations!
They did.
The other team has no interest in playing the sport. They're horrible at it.
Okay,
their best defenseman is at number 6.
I do disagree with that. I do think that
they came out and were kind of interested in the first 5 minutes last night.
You did see a Sharks team that I think played about as intense as they can play.
I should have filled this with Jameson.
Probably, yeah. They played about as intense as they can play given their obvious talent deficiencies. Like, they played hard. They played hard for them. The thing is that playing hard for them is still squeezing out a 2-1 victory while getting outshot by 20 shots. Like, that is their best. That's how bad that team is. And look, this is an embarrassing loss. It's a really embarrassing loss because no one wanted to be the team that lost to the Sharks. And the Flyers, because they're the Flyers, found a way to be the team that lost to the Sharks. And, like, of course it was the Flyers. Of course it was the Flyers.
I don't know what's more unbelievable about it. The fact that it really was them or the fact that I didn't see this coming a mile away. Like, everyone's like, how didn't you? And I'm like, I don't know. Quite honestly, like, I'm standing on the train tracks, looking at the train heading towards me. The big light is getting bigger and bigger. The gates are down. The thing is going bing bong, bing bong. And I'm like, it's probably all right.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
We'll be all right. Like, I'll just move. I'll get out of the way. And then it hits me. And then I just get run the fuck over. Like, I'm mad at them and myself. I just, if Sam Ersson just gets lit up last night because, like, he stinks, I might be able to accept that. But how do you just not score? How do you have 39 shots?
For whatever reason, and I don't understand this because I objectively think he's not a good goalie. For whatever reason, Mackenzie Blackwood does seem to have the Flyers' number, and he did play well.
Charlie, he came in with a save percentage in the 870s.
I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying against the Flyers, he's good.
In his career against the Flyers, 13 games, 9-2-2 with a 923, a 243 goals against, and 2 shutouts. For some reason, this bad goalie beats the Flyers. Yeah. Like, he's just Cody Ross. Like, I do not understand. When he steps on the ice against the Flyers, he becomes Dominik Hasek. Except the Flyers used to beat Hasek sometimes.
Occasionally.
Like,
once in a while.
They beat him in a couple playoff series. Every now and then they'd have to put one through the side of the net to beat him. But, ESPN was like, yeah, we want the Flyers in the next round, so we ain't giving them that angle. and they beat it. But, like, how do you lose to a team this bad? They were gonna win eventually, I guess. But I said yesterday, I think it actually works against them. They're in this spot of historical, like, incompetence that no team is going to take them lightly because they don't want to get laughed at and have assholes like me calling them the worst team ever for 2 weeks because of this. And that will be the motivating factor.
No, apparently
you think
not.
Between that and, like, your head coach being John Tortorella, you'd be motivated to beat a team that's inherently beatable. But no.
Well, I think what you're seeing
was not the case.
No, I think what you're seeing here, which is something, honestly, we've been saying from the get-go, is that this Flyers team lacks high-end talent. They lack the kind of talent that allows you to just flip the switch and score 3 goals the same way, a Colorado, a Vegas, a Dallas, a Toronto, the way those teams can do it. The way the Flyers have to win is they have to work really, really, really hard. And what you saw last night was a team that for the first 40 minutes didn't work really, really hard. And it just serves as a reminder that, like, some teams can get away with not working really hard because they have a Connor McDavid who can just flip the switch and dominate for 2 shifts, and you can just beat a bad team solely based on him putting the team on his back for a combined 120 seconds. Guess what? With the Flyers, they don't have anybody like that. So they need to outwork a team. And what you're seeing is that they are talent efficient enough that if they don't work their asses off, they can lose to quite possibly the worst team of the last 30 years.
Like, and I would have just a small thing about last night's game that Sean C. I see points out with the faceoffs. The Sharks actually came in a pretty good faceoff team. They're like 53%.
It's like the one thing they were good at.
It's like the one like outlier stat. You're like, did I sort this in the wrong? Like, why are the Sharks at the top? Oh, they came in like they're a pretty good faceoff team. At least through 40 minutes, the Flyers were at like 28%, I think.
Yeah, let me check. Let me check to see where they finished. It was bad.
Like,
they finished at 30.2%.
It's a 50-50 puck battle. Like, the best guys in the league, and we're talking about the specialized dudes, are like 60 or under. That's like Giroux and Couturier when they were on the same line and were able to only go on their strong sides were like 56, 58%. It's a 50-50 puck battle. You won 30% of them? No. And I'm sorry, like, oh, well, this is what happens when they don't work hard. Exactly. And that's supposed to be their thing.
Yeah, I agree.
John Tortorella is imparting this standard on everybody, and everyone has to live up to it. And if you don't, God forbid, you're going to find your ass on the bench because I'm the hard-ass coach. I bag skate you. We're the hard-working team. Where was it last night? And it's coming off the 5-0 loss to the Kings, which I can live with losing to the Kings, but they played like shit.
Yeah.
And the Kings might be the best team in the West right now, maybe outside of Vegas. But when you get embarrassed at home like that, and then you have a layup, make the layup.
Yeah.
No. They refused. They were Ben Simmons.
I was going to say they straight
were
up Ben Simmons
under the rim.
They
But
straight up
instead
Ben
of
Simmons
passing it to Matisse Thybulle, they punted the ball into the fucking 300s.
Incredible.
I don't know why I'm so mad at them, because again, I should have seen it coming. They did this like 4 years ago. They lost to the 0-10-1. They lost to the 0-10-1 Arizona Coyotes like a couple of years ago.
This is their thing. This is the Flyers thing.
10-game losing streaks. And that's just like, how does... Yeah, we were just joking around about the Yankees right before we went live. Like Brian Cashman coming out like, we actually have the smallest analytics department in the American League East. It's like, well, you're worth $1 trillion. Why? Why do you have the smallest anything of it? Like, you should have, if you don't believe in something at all, you should have the biggest just because you can.
Yeah.
You know? And that's like, I look at the Flyers. How did they become, like we joke all the time, they do nothing like interesting.
Yeah.
Like they haven't made a big trade. They haven't made a big free agent sign. Like Kevin Hayes, like Matt Niskanen, Ryan Ellis. These are not.
They're not earth-shaking acquisitions.
These are not like going out and like making the Lindros trade.
Yeah.
They don't do shit that's like above and beyond interesting ever. And yet somehow they're the most ridiculous team in the win 10 in a row. Yeah, they're the only team in history to miss the playoffs after winning 10. Multiple 10-game losing streaks over the last 7-8 years. They've now lost to 0-11 teams twice to start a season, a couple of times. Like, they are how did they become the ridiculous team? Like, was this how?
It's karma for Flyers fans for being as ridiculous as they are. That this is just it's like a feedback loop. It's like the Flyers are insane, so then the fans become insane, and then because the fans are insane, the team gets even more insane. It's just this awful feedback loop, and you know what? I'm here for it because it is, in a car crash sort of way, it is entertaining.
All right, let's pretend my hat's off. I shaved, my hair's up in a bun. It's not just all over the goddamn place. As a media member, we got to do a show every day. It's Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
All right, they win 3-1. Who cares? Like, they are content gold for considering considering they're not the worst team in the league and they're by no means a cup contender. They're in like that kind of spot that's horrible to be in. They still are somehow content gold. Like, it's truly unbelievable. But I got to be honest with you, Charlie, it's wearing a little thin on me. Like, they're ridiculous. The entertainment level of their ridiculousness, it's becoming absurd. They are an absurd franchise. And like the Ottawa Senators being absurd, that's fine. Like if the Sharks want to be 0-10-1, like you're the San Jose Sharks. Congratulations. You probably shouldn't even exist. Like, the Philadelphia Flyers are owned by fucking Comcast. There is no excuse for them to be as absolutely inept as they have become over the last decade.
See, the funny thing about this is that, like,
anyone with Comcast cable is like LOL.
Like, number one, I'm not angry. I'm really not. But I am really enjoying just letting you go off and express all the anger that clearly all the fans feel.
Like, it's...
Because I think this is great. I think this is the ideal outcome for this season.
If they were... if they went 1-81 this year, that would be fine. You beat the team. The Sharks, not only did the Sharks, and this is great work by Tyler, because I didn't know this. The Sharks not only started the season losing their first 11 games, they lost the final 6 games of last season, all in regulation, by the way. So they were 0-16-1 in their last 17 coming into this.
Well, didn't they slump us the year the pandemic year, the year was shortened, not the year that was shortened because of the pandemic, but the one that started late.
56
Didn't they
gamer or
break
whatever.
like a 19-game losing streak by the Sabres too? Didn't that happen?
Somebody tweeted that at me, and it was like, that's the thing is I can't even keep track of it all
There's just
now.
so many.
There's so many like people. I asked on Twitter last night for like people's most embarrassing moments of the last like Flyers like recent, and there's so I can't even remember them. People are like sending me these funny gifs and like these moments, and I'm like, I don't even remember all of these. But it's just from the bad luck that this team has, like the ridiculous injuries, the draft busts. Like, oh yeah, we moved 13-2. Luck's turning around.
Nope.
Oh yeah, that guy's out of the league.
And then the three guys after him,
The guy who
are
went,
all-stars.
and the guy who went one is the captain of the Devils. Like, is he the best guy in that draft? No, but he might win the Selke this year, and he's the captain of a team that's going to be a cup contender for the next 10 years. Like, that was a great for a draft that came in. It was like, it's all right. That was a great draft.
ended up being a real
the
good
Flyers
draft.
had the second pick, and the dude's out of hockey. How are we this way? And I know you don't have an answer for me, Charlie, because you're just a really good analyst. You're not God. But how? How?
because Flyer. Look, as I said, the reason why I'm not angry about this is because, like, this run, I'm looking specifically at this run of the last 6 games. Like, this is exactly what I wanted out of the season. I wanted a Flyers team that was out shooting and out chancing the opposition and was still losing. And over the last 6 games, they've won 1 game, they've lost 5. They've collected 55% of the expected goals. Like, yes, they played like crap last game. And had they played against anyone other than the Sharks, they certainly would not have outshot and outchanced them. But, like, they still did. They still probably should have won that game. As bad as they played, they probably still should have won that game if they get a couple bounces, if Mackenzie Blackwood lets in a weak one like he has pretty much every single other game this season. I think he's probably let in more than a couple weak ones per game, given his awful save percentage going into this game. Like, they probably should have won that game. They didn't. And it's infuriating for fans, to be sure, because it's embarrassing, because they're going to be the joke of the league for at least a few weeks, at least until the Sharks win, like, their second game, which, hell, that might come in another month. Who knows? But
they'll win 10 in a row, make the playoffs.
It's not like I came into the season with the expectation this team was going to be good. And honestly, if anything, the fact that this game happened, and now, like you said to kick off the show, I no longer can buy the idea that this team is better. Like, that's almost a relief to me, because now I don't have to deal with fans who are like, how can you say this team is rebuilding? They're so good. They're going to be a legit playoff team because I watched them last couple games. They look good. And, like, yes, that's going to be this year. There's going to be games where they're going to go into Buffalo and kick the shit out of the Sabres. And then there's going to be games where they're going to go into San Jose against a winless team and lose because they're a bad hockey team. They're a bad hockey team that I think is making progress, but they're still a bad hockey team.
Listen, I can accept a lot of there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and hockey is random.
But I love the fact that you don't want to accept it. Because that's great. No, because that's great, and fans shouldn't accept that.
I can accept a lot of what you're saying, and if they play well and lose, like they did against Carolina, like they did against Vegas,
fair.
I can more than accept that. Beautiful. That's a rebuilding team.
Mm-hmm.
This team is supposed to be improved from last year. And yes, they are rebuilding, and a top 10, maybe top 5 pick is exactly what they need. But again, this is we're maintaining a standard. We're not tanking. If your standard
it is fair,
is better than what last night was, you need to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And to your point, and like, nice start to the year, all that. They are now, by points percentage, tied for 7th worst in hockey.
That's about right.
Last year, they were the 7th worst team in hockey.
That's about right.
They are exactly where they were.
They are who we thought they were.
Right back
and
where
we let
we
the
started
Sharks off
from.
the hook.
I don't even have a segue here. Calling all card collectors. Wheelhouse is our go-to sports card, gift, and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community, because love of sports unites us all. Lucky you, Wheelhouse. Lucky you. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Shibe Vintage Sports. Looking to grade your sports card collection? Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop in either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY to get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards. That's I like a good in-store discount. Go in and be, PHLY. And then they'll be like, oh, you're buying Flyers gear? Be like, no.
I think there's something to be said about, like, I know a lot of people have transitioned to just ordering everything from Amazon, ordering everything online. There's something to be said about, like, going to a place regularly and getting to know, like, the owner and the people who work behind the counter and stuff like that. I don't know. There's just, like, a cool sense of community there.
No, there absolutely is. And that's their motto, cards and community. We're big on that here at PHLY. So it's pretty sweet that's their thing as well. And I especially for, I buy a lot of team apparel. I have a lot of, and I'm an odd shape. I need to if I buy a shirt on the internet, it's like, this is 50-50.
Yeah, you want to try it on.
I need to feel the material. Like, is this going to accentuate my pear shape, or is this going to hide it? I need a good boxy shirt. I can't have those form-fitting shirts that you wear, because then it just looks like I'm pregnant. So I enjoy going into a nice brick and mortar store, and you can find Wheelhouse Cards in Wayne and Westchester, open 7 days a week. All right, back to this
team.
Absolutely asinine team.
This team.
What do we have? I just want to spend an hour hammering them, because that's the most ridiculous.
They probably deserve it. I do think you made a good point, though, about this idea of accountability and this idea of we're not tanking. And I think it's completely fair for fans to make the argument that the Flyers can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
They can't say, we aren't tanking, we're building this culture, that what matters is making sure that guys don't get used to losing, that we're developing players in the right environment. You can't say all those things and then go out and lose to an 0-11 team.
No.
And especially in the way they lost, which was for the first 40 minutes, they did not look like they were all there. I'll give them a little bit of credit. They did try real hard in the final 20 when it finally seemed to register of, oh shit, we might actually lose to this friggin' team. Now, why it took them 40 minutes to realize that, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you exactly, because I sleep until noon, and then Ava calls me, and the house is a goddamn wreck, and the dog hasn't been out, and all of a sudden I'm doing the dishes and trying to give the dog his breakfast. No, look, honey, I did shit while you were at work at 4:45 this morning. Look, no, that third period was quite honestly bullshit, and I know, I wish they got shut out in the game, quite honestly. The one goal was condescending to me. And I'll tell you what else. I know this is going to be hypocritical, because I made fun of the Sharks for only having the one fighting major after giving up 20 goals in 2 games. The scrum at the end of the game was the most try-hard Brandon Manning bullshit. Oh, no, look, we care. We're going to fight when we lost. No, if you cared, the first 40 minutes, you would have scored 6 goals, and the third period, you'd have been dumping and chasing, going into a shell. Yeah. It was just, the whole thing was performative nonsense to me, and that made me even angrier than the effort in the first 40 minutes was the fake effort at the end of the game. Show up.
Fair.
All you had to do was show up. This was not oh man, if we really go out and work, we might be able to get this one. This was, if we played one good period of hockey, we should win this game 4-1.
Yeah.
And you lost 2-1 because you played a good 17 minutes in the third. Yeah. And it was too late. They were already feeling it, and you were gripping your sticks. There's no way you were putting one in. It was a team of Tyson Forsters last night.
In the third period, 100%.
They could have had an open net, and they would have pinged it off of the crossbar.
Yeah, I honestly think that, I know they get the goal at the end of the second period, Joel Farabee scores, but in a way, even though you get that goal, it had to have been Jesus Christ, that great of a play, and he came within an inch of stopping it. Holy shit, we can't beat this guy.
I do have to say, Flyers video team.
They're doing well.
Excellent.
They're doing a really good job.
They've had 2 or 3 offside. They've had there was a goalie interference before those, maybe in the Anaheim game. Or
I think tonight, or not tonight. I guess you could call it tonight because the game did end on today.
This morning.
Yeah. But the game last night, I think that was a booth challenge.
That was a booth challenge.
I don't think that was the Flyers challenging. I think that was the officials wanted to take a look at it to see. But I do agree with you that the Flyers video review team, their video coach and whatnot, they're doing a good job so far this year in terms of, informing Tortorella quickly enough for him to challenge, because with these challenges, you could end up on the penalty kill if you mess up, and they've nailed them. So I guess props to them on that. But going back to what I was saying about the Flyers can't have it both ways. Like, if they had more or less done what the Sharks did and, trade away Erik Karlsson and been like, yep, we're just going to be terrible. Like, these sorts of losses wouldn't matter as much. No. But if you're going to claim that we're trying to be better than a tanking team, we're rebuilding, but we're not tanking, then fans have every right to be absolutely livid when they lose games like this.
I do have to, I guess I got to give props to the video team. Maybe that was a booth review, so it wasn't them last night, but they've been good. Nick Delorier, he did his job last night.
He did fight.
He got in that nice fight.
Sure did.
That was I love the way Delorier fights. I like a guy. He's not looking to tie up. Like, I like when they square off, and that was fun. And he threw a real nice hit in the defensive zone as well. Great check of the game, so good for him.
Did he? I mean, okay, that check, I actually want to do a little mini rant on that, because yes, it was a great collision, but they both fell. Wow. To me, a great check is when you check a guy and he falls and you don't.
All right. If it's a guy who I want to be in the play.
Okay. Fair.
If Travis Sanheim throws a check and he also goes down and is now out of the play, that's bad. 4-on-4 with Nick Delorier being the one who took himself out. That's a lot okay, I'm just going to go line up their best player and they kick me out of the game. That's Zach Rinaldo running Chris Letang.
Oh, Zach Rinaldo.
I will gladly take a game misconduct, because I don't matter. So I guess. But it was an exciting half second in a game that made me want to throw something through the television. That's all.
Fair. Let's talk about some other things.
Some other things that are tangentially related.
Well, yeah, tangentially related to the game. Namely, man, this power play is awful.
I don't even... The Flyers have not scored a power play goal since the Anaheim game. I think they're 0 for the last 22 or 23.
It's rough. It's real rough.
It's one thing, sometimes you get goalied, and I refuse, sometimes you do, and Mackenzie Blackwood played well last night. Also, I refuse to accept that excuse from a goalie who came in with a save percentage in the 870s.
Yeah,
just be better. Score. I don't know what to tell you. It's your job to score sometimes. Score. The power play, most of the time, is an embarrassment. When and Sean C made a comment about the end of the game when they pulled the goalie, and it's 6-on-5, so it's not technically a power play, but you just see they're unable to outnumber and outwork the Sharks along the boards to get possession so they can get Urson out. It's just... They're horrible when they have more guys than the other team. Yeah. It's no longer a joke. They're actually really bad at it.
It's reality. No, and I tweeted out during the game, and it was one of those where you start making a tweet, and then halfway through, you're like, no, I can't finish this because actually it's not accurate. Because it was about midway through the third period, and the Flyers just had about 3 straight shifts when they were in the offensive zone the entire time. They were cycling, they were shooting. I mean, they weren't scoring, obviously, but they were in complete control.
How could they? How could we ask such a thing?
I know, right? And I basically started tweeting, man, this third period, it feels like the Flyers are on a power play. And then I stopped myself, and I'm like, that was a good one. Let me rephrase, because it's not like they're on a Flyers power play, because if they were on a Flyers power play, they wouldn't be doing shit. It looks like they're on a normal power play, like a power play for most NHL teams when they do have the puck most of the time and are creating lots of chances, because that doesn't really happen on actual Flyers power plays all that often.
It doesn't. And I'm just I'm trying to, is the penalty kill still outscoring the power
That's
play?
a good question. I know that the penalty kill is definitely outscoring the power play if you break it down on a like per minute basis. The penalty kill, I believe, is something like, it's actually been ridiculous in terms of their goals for per 60, and the power play something around, I think, the high twos, which is awful given the fact that the best even strength teams usually score around like 2.7 goals for per 60, and the Flyers power play is something like 2.8 or 2.9. So it's real bad. I'm not sure.
A tie.
It's a tie.
4-4.
It's 4-4. Okay. So it's 4-4. We're going to overtime. We're heading to the shootout. I gotcha. It's awful. The power play is awful. And this, in a weird sort of way, I kind of love it because this is another pathway to being a decent process team, but losing a lot of games because you can be real good at 5-on-5. You get the power plays. You can't do anything with them. However, that doesn't absolve the people on the power play or the people running the power play from the fact that they're doing a bad job on the power play. It's pathetic to watch. It's truly painful.
And that's, yes, personnel bad.
Yeah.
We know this. It's why they are rebuilding.
Yes.
Tortorella, though, is Mr. Standard guy. Morgan Frost can't find his way into the lineup because he doesn't live up to whatever standard John Tortorella has set for this team. Rocky Thompson. Why isn't he held to the standard of a Morgan Frost or a Kevin Hayes? Because, yes, again, bad. But since the start of last season, the power play is at 14.4%. And quite honestly, I can't believe it's in the double digits. I was expecting.
Well, it's not this year.
I just mean since late. I was expecting it to be like 9.8. Quite honestly, they're by far the worst. Yeah. I'm pretty sure if there was 40 teams in the league, they would be 40th. I don't think 1 month into a season in which the coach has come out and been like, "Oh, we're fucking rebuilding." I don't think a coach, like one of his assistants, is getting fired.
I do. It's so incredibly rare for an assistant to be fired mid-season. So if you're hoping like to just get that that catharsis of Rocky Thompson being fired,
and I'm not saying I even want him to be.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing with you that solely. And granted, the power play coach isn't just the power play coach. Like Rocky Thompson is the power play coach, and he coaches the forwards. However, in his duties as the power play coach, he has been woefully deficient in those duties. I think that is undeniable, even accounting for the distinct lack of talent they have up front, the fact they don't really have a true power play quarterback on defense to be that guy. It should be better than this. And you saw it in this game. Like, they got some power plays. And granted, they blew some of them because they decided to take a too many men penalty, like unreal. And that, again, shows like this team wasn't really prepared for that game, which speaks to the coaching staff and the approach of the players. But they had enough power plays. They should have been able to get one. Like, the Sharks are not a good hockey team. We all know this. Their penalty kill is not good. They don't have the kind of personnel that can allow them to have a good penalty kill. And the Flyers just did what they do against everybody else, which is pass around the perimeter, have some shots from distance, hope you get a lucky bounce on a point shot that gets deflected. Like, what is this? Again, there's no plan. There's no plan.
And that, like, I'm just looking at the way they played the entire game, and I feel like the power play is emblematic because you look at the shot total and go, okay, so the Flyers were on offense quite a bit in this game. They had possession of the puck and were able to direct 39 shots at Mackenzie Blackwood. That is it's basically what they I think came into the game, I think, giving up 37.5. So they basically
about the average.
They basically hit their average.
Yeah.
But like, the Flyers had control of the game for quite a bit. And I just think, like, if you're the hardworking team, why are we spending so much time on the perimeter? Everyone in that, like, guys like Sean Couturier, guys like Travis Konecny, Mackenzie Blackwood's good against you. Go to the fucking net. Get greasy, man. Like, why are we all out here on the perimeter ripping shots from, like, outside the hash marks when you're not good enough to score from there?
Yeah.
You simply aren't good enough to score from there. Like, Tyson Forster is a guy who might be good enough to score from there,
clearly not
but
right
he
now.
hasn't been able to score at all this year.
Yeah, they don't have many guys that can.
They don't have these dudes. They don't have a big booming shot from the point. They don't have snipers. Get to the net and create havoc. Every outside shot I see, I just see Blackwood eating it up on his logo, grabbing it with his glove and putting it down. Like, no traffic, no chaos, nothing.
Yeah.
No desire to make that game any more difficult on the Sharks than just another Tuesday in the middle of a long season in which neither team really gives a shit.
Yeah, and
that's what it looked like.
And Tortorella did acknowledge that after the game. The post-game presser, which I watched on YouTube, was not long. It was about 2 minutes, as one would expect when you lose to an 0-11 team. But Torts did say that, look, we had a lot of puck possession, but not nearly enough quality chances.
None.
And that stands for both 5-on-5 and the power play. 5-on-5, like, okay, you're playing against the Sharks. You should be able to create quality chances. But I acknowledge that at least they have the same amount of skaters on the ice as you. On the power play, you got one more. Like, you have a numbers advantage somewhere. Take advantage of it. And if you have to take advantage of it in front of the net to bang in a couple rebounds, do that. It can be done. It has happened before.
It has happened before. And I'm just... I continue to be baffled by this team. I can't imagine many people are all that interested in going and checking them out at this point. But you know what? The Sixers also play down at the Wells Fargo Center. So maybe you want to go check out. I can't believe that's where I am at this point. Like, the team I have given up on completely.
They're off to a good start.
They really are. But listen, buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. I did think like there were more people in the stands last night than I was expecting.
Really? Because there weren't a lot of people in the stands.
I was expecting 11 people, one for each Sharks loss. But at one point I did hear, and I think Kevin Kurz tweeted that he heard some EAGLES chants.
Makes sense.
And I feel like I heard them. I
didn't, but I'll take his word for it.
I was like, is that what I'm hearing right now? And then I saw him tweet it, and I was like, oh, so there are some Flyers fans in the building. I bet you they wanted to use Game Time because Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I want to hammer the coaching staff for a lot of the on-ice stuff last night because that was, and ultimately it falls on the players.
Yeah, of course.
Like, this is your job. Go out and do your job. But it's also the coach's job to make sure they come out prepared. But the pregame decision-making, the idea that Morgan Frost, and listen, I get it. He's probably not that good. And we've probably dedicated way too much time to a dude whose ceiling is at best decent 3C. I get it. But if he doesn't fit in the future here, there is, I think, even more responsibility to play this guy. So you can try to get something for him.
Yeah.
Okay, he doesn't live up to your standard. After last night, who does?
Yeah.
We're going to be the culture and identity team. We're going to play with pace. And this is something I wanted to is just pregame. I'm sitting there just thinking about, like, what doesn't Morgan Frost have that other dudes who aren't that good, clearly John Tortorella prefers.
Right.
And I'm not even talking about Noah Cates. Like, Noah Cates is going through a rough stretch right now, but I think last year I learned he's a good player.
Yeah, and we'll actually, to be honest with you, like, Noah Cates is one of the few guys last night where I more than twice said, like, hey, that was a good play.
There was a few nice forechecks on his part. Listen,
he drew that penalty.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Not saying he played well because no one played well, but he at least wasn't as painful to watch as most of the team.
If you get to the puck first behind the net and dish it out front and ain't no one out front, what are you supposed to do? Yeah. Like, it's 2-on-1 down low. You got the puck. Someone should be there. they weren't. But like, I'm not even talking about Morgan Cates. I'm just the overall makeup of this
You're
team.
thinking stylistically.
Stylistically, what is he missing? And I'm just thinking, like, John Tortorella wants Travis Konecny's, where there's no, we're carrying the puck in the zone. Maybe it's 2-on-1. Maybe it's 2-on-2. Maybe it's 2-on-3, whatever. I'm taking it to the net. We're creating the chance now. See how it goes. Aggressive, safe as death, etc. That's the type of pace John Tortorella wants. And stylistically, Morgan Frost is carry it over the blue line and then Jake Voracek it. Pull up at the top of the circle and say, yeah, we might be able to do something now, but think of the play we could make in a minute if we can figure something, like if we can get an even better position. And I just think, is that it in your mind? Is it just that stylistic difference? Like, and this is generalities. I'm just trying to, like, he's a pull up at the top of the circle and wait to see if something develops. And John Tortorella wants guys who make things happen now.
I think there's something to that. I think that, look, one of the big things with Morgan Frost, and this dates back all the way to his junior play, and we've talked about this, I believe, on the show, is that he never, while he's actually a legitimately good skater, especially in juniors, and this was a problem going into the pro game for him, he never played with a ton of pace. His thing was, I'm going to carry the puck into the zone pretty deliberately.
He's deliberate.
I'm going to wait for my options. I'm going to scan the ice because I have really good vision, and then I'm going to find my guy, and we're going to create a quality chance. I think he's tried really hard to play with more pace, to skate faster, not in the sense of having the ability to skate faster, but in the sense of when he's carrying the puck when he's carrying the puck up ice, he has the ability to do it quicker because he knows guys are behind him, putting back pressure on him, and he makes plays. However, that tendency does come out sometimes, and I'm sure that tendency does tick off Tortorella a fair amount because he wants his guys to play with pace. He wants his guys to play with energy. He wants his guys to play with aggressiveness. I also think another part of Frost's game that does frustrate Tortorella, and this is a part of Frost's game that I think frustrates a lot of Flyers fans, particularly the very angry ones on Twitter. He's just not physical. Like, he's not even a little bit physical. And I'm not talking about the, like, got like Aristolainen type physicality. Like, Sean Couturier doesn't have many hits.
I was just going to say,
he plays a physical game in the sense that he's active in battles. He tries to win pucks. Morgan Frost has that, like, he's a little bit, like, off to the side. He's the guy who's watching the puck battle, hoping it's going to scoot out, and then he can grab the puck and make a play. And I think it's that part of his game, I would guess more than anything else, that irks Torts, because I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing. I don't think every guy has to play this super physically engaged style, but I think Tortorella thinks everybody has to play a physically engaged style.
And I think, like, if you're the best left winger on the team, can you get away being a perimeter guy, maybe not being the most physical guy? Yeah, absolutely. If you are that 3/4 of a point a game guy, if you're gonna be a bottom six, and, like, okay, maybe he's a second liner, but it doesn't look like it to this point. If you're gonna be a third line center, no, you need to have that element of your game. We have to be able to trust you on the penalty kill, which it's not even that's not even in a conversation about him.
And that's the distinction between Frost and Cates, where like Torts can look at Noah Cates and say, on my good team, he's a 3C because he's a penalty killer, because he's engaged, because he's defensively oriented. Is he going to score a ton of points? I think he can score more. I'm speaking in Tortorella's voice. I think he can score more, but no, he's not a point per game guy. But I envision him as the 3C on my contending Flyers team. The point I made in the article I wrote yesterday, which was very critical of the decision to scratch Frost again after putting him back in for 4 games, the point I made is that I've always felt that if Morgan Frost is going to fit on this team over the long term, it's going to have to be because he shows he can score so much that you have to find a place for him. That it doesn't matter that he's not the most physical. It doesn't matter that sometimes he's going to turn the puck over when he tries to make a play, because at the end of the year, you look at the point totals and he's got 65, 70 every year, and you're like, we deal with it because the guy's so good offensively. Now, some people have made the decision, have made the evaluation that he's never going to be that guy. I think Tortorella has probably made the evaluation that he's never going to be that guy. My opinion is that even though I personally am skeptical that he's ever going to be that guy, I have to acknowledge that Last year, he took a big step forward offensively. He made a big jump year over year. He scored more. And this year is supposed to be about finding out what we have in players. My guess is that if you gave Morgan Frost 82 games this season to show that he can take a further leap offensively and turn himself into a 65, 70-point guy, which is the kind of guy I think he needs to be in order to fit on this team long term, my guess is that he would not live up to that. But my point is that why not find out? Like, why not use this year, which, as you've told us, is not about winning?
That's right.
Why not use this year to just confirm your preconceived notion that he's not that guy? Because what's it going to hurt? Like, do you really need to have Ryan Poehling in the lineup? Is it really that important?
They played with so much identity and character last night, Charlie.
Like,
it's important.
Why not find out this year for sure? Because you can say that you don't love the way Morgan Frost plays, but Morgan Frost did, and I know I joke about it sometimes, he did lead the team in scoring in the second half of the season over the final 54, 55 games, whatever. Why not this year find out if that's for real? And if it's not, then at the end of the season, you can, without any real worry, you can then trade him for a mid-round draft pick and feel good that he's not going to be the next Patrick Sharp. But the worst case scenario here, and this is, I think, what drives a lot of the big Morgan Frost fans, it's not even love of Morgan Frost. It's fear that he's going to be Patrick Sharp.
And that's not even like at this point, listen, if he goes elsewhere and has success, congrats. I get, like, I don't really live in fear of that because listen, dudes are going to move on. Like I look at Colorado and how they were like, what became of them. And now they're kind of regular cup contenders. And it's like, yeah, man, like Ryan O'Reilly had a really good career after he left there. Like Matt Duchene, nice player. Like sometimes you move on from good players.
Yeah, they won a cup. Who cares?
Yeah, but like sometimes you move on from good players and your team's fine. Like that's one, you can't pay everybody, and two, like you make the best of the return and make the best of what you have. Like I'm not gonna live in fear of that. And I'm like, it's a comment from a couple minutes ago. It's pretty far up, but it was like, poor Bill, he sure defends Frost. Like I'm not even a big Morgan Frost fan.
Yeah,
I'm not even defending him. It's the asset management aspect of this. It's that if you've already determined that he's played 6 games this year.
They played 13. He's played less than half.
He's played less than half. If it took you 6 games to determine he's not part of the future of this team, that means you already made that determination last year.
Exactly.
And if that's the case, you should have traded his rights in the offseason. What are we doing? If this is like, get something that's either future lottery tickets or a player who does fit whatever you're trying to build. Like, get something. And now they're putting themselves in a position where it's like, it's going to be a 2025 fifth.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, to me,
he might stink. He might flat out stink.
To me, the distinction is I want him, I almost want to give him a fair shot just so I don't feel like he was treated unfairly when you ultimately give up on it. Like if they played him 82 games this season, he finishes with 45 points, still isn't driving play, still isn't doing much on the power play. The Flyers trade him next summer, and then 2 years down the road, like he pulls a Carlos Carrasco and figures it out on another team. Like, you know
nice
what?
Reference.
You know what? I'm not mad because you know what? I would say the Flyers gave him every chance to make it work here. He couldn't make it work here. Maybe it just was never going to work here, and he figured it out somewhere else. And you know what? Good job, Morgan Frost. Props to you. I'm proud of you, buddy. But if they do this to him all year, if he ultimately plays in 50 games because he's going in and out of the lineup all year, and he knows that every mistake he makes, every time the Flyers lose 4-1, he's the guy coming out because he's the guy Torts picks. If that's the way it plays out, and then the Flyers trade him in the offseason for, as you implied, for less than what he might be worth if you didn't do that, and then a year or two down the road, he breaks out and is a 65-point guy, then I'll be pissed because then it's like you had him, and maybe if you would have given him that look, maybe you would have been the ones to figure it out, not some other team.
And like, if he goes somewhere else and is nice depth scoring for a good team because they have the pieces to put around him to make him effective, like the Flyers don't have those. They don't have enough pieces to make a first line, let alone a third. Like, so it's I want to be without a shadow of a doubt. And that goes for everybody. It's just that he's the one he's the one that is being singled out here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to turn this into like the Wade Allison thing where for the first 2 weeks of, the preseason, we're talking about Wade Allison and then, oh, look at him. He's on the Phantoms' fourth line and he stinks. It's like, maybe that's who Frost ends up being.
Maybe.
But let's find out.
Yeah.
Like, let us find out. That's all. And I just see hypocrisy when we blame him when things go wrong. It's like, well, they just lost to the fucking Sharks.
He wasn't
Who's
in the
getting
lineup.
blamed for this one?
Exactly.
I did want to say, though, since you made the Carrasco reference, I was a big Lou Marson guy. I was bummed to see.
You were a big Lou guy?
I thought he was the catcher of the future.
Yeah, that's fair. There were a lot of prospects.
Bummed to see him go.
There were a lot of prospects during that
None
Phillies
of them
era.
turned out.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Kyle Drabeck. I mean, we had a lot of prospects that got traded for good players that ultimately never turned out. Like the one guy who's still stuck, who I never would have guessed would have been that guy who's still playing, is Travis d'Arnaud.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Good for him.
I mean, Carrasco eventually figured it out. But again, it took like 5 years before he became the good Carlos Carrasco.
We would rather talk about anything than this team right now.
Honestly,
literally
kinda.
The 2011 Philadelphia, or I guess that was 2009 Philadelphia Phillies.
Well, yeah, the Lee trade would have been 09.
It does not take a whole lot to look better than the Flyers. All you got to do to look better than the Flyers, I mean, wake up in the morning. But other than that, all you got to do, man, shop at FOCO, because FOCO has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Whether you're looking for team apparel for the season ahead, overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, anything you need for game day, or maybe you need some accessories, toys, collectibles, or novelty items for your man cave, she shed, or podcast set, you've got to use FOCO for all your team gear needs. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. For all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY for 10% off. That's promo code PHLY for 10% off. FOCO, I have a suggestion for you. Paper bags.
We're doing that again.
Team-branded,
we're really bringing back the paper bags.
Team-branded paper
no.
bags.
Please no.
The most annoying part of the paper bags was it was really hard to tell apart anybody on Twitter because it was everyone's Twitter avatar.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't recognize names or anything. I barely know like anyone's name who works here, let alone the people on Twitter. And that made it difficult. But my God, Charlie, this team, man.
This team. This is the life.
How do they get me up
Flyers.
at 10 a.m. and have me this fucking angry
Well, it's because
already?
I have a flight going to LA to cover the rest of the next 2 games of this road trip.
Charlie will
That's
be.
why.
That is why, in case you were wondering, we're doing this show at 10 a.m. today. Charlie has a flight to catch in like a couple of minutes, basically. So he's going to be on his way to Philly International as soon as we wake up. So safe travels, my friend. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Once again to accommodate for this. That's going to be like 7 your time. That's going to be real fun for you.
My hope is that I'm still going to be on East Coast time, so I'll wake up at like 6 naturally, and then I'll be able to do the show with no problem.
Wake up at 6 naturally.
It's like 9.
I understand. I understand. So it'll be Kelly, Hinkle, and I in studio live at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Charlie, excuse me, got the hiccups now. Just breathing in way too much air. Charlie will be joining us remotely, so we will have yet another great show for you. But that will basically do it for today. Do we have anything else to scream about before we wrap it up, Chuck?
I don't think so. I think you did more than enough screaming for hopefully for the fan base. Hopefully,
I'm going back to bed.
You earned it, buddy.
I just drank a gallon of coffee, so that's not happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. For Charlie O'Connor, my name is Bill Matz. We will talk to you tomorrow. Whatever.
We all silly like the mayor.